2.3 college GPA, as a student athlete who just didn't do much in school. And then now he's going to PA school as it's getting more and more competitive. So it's totally possible. It's hard. It's not super likely, but it is possible. Without further ado, this is Sean. He just got into PA school. He's starting in the fall.
It's actually a summer term for Miami-Dade College, so that's going to be about beginning of May, and it's also a master's program as well. So that's the online part of it with Nova Southeastern University, and that starts towards the end of April. So online and in person, coming up here pretty soon here.
So that's in like probably 3 months, 4 months. You're getting started.
Right. Which is nice because most my friends who got in for the fall term, they had to really rush and move their stuff and move out of state and do all that, find an apartment and kind of hustle and get all that stuff done. Luckily, I was in state here in
Mhm.
Miami, Florida, and I got lucky. So yeah, I'm happy. I have a little bit extra time to kind of get my stuff together for summer term here.
Yeah, it's crazy. I've heard of people getting in like the week of classes starting.
Right,
Well, like, they don't
right.
know, so they're still
Yep,
working their medical assistant job or something, and then
exactly.
they get a phone call like, "Hey, by the way, do you wanna start, like, next week?" And you're like, "How?" Like, but they make it happen because they have to.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not easy, but when you get that call, you gotta drop everything and you gotta go because you don't know when that call will come again, or if if you're lucky enough to get the opportunity.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's your future, so you kinda just have to do it.
Absolutely.
Um, but yeah, so the purpose of this is to kinda talk to Sean because he was a lot like a lot of you guys, he was a lower GPA kind of applicant. He didn't have the best college GPA. He had to work really hard to get where he is now. And also, he did something really different. Why I wanted to talk to him, he didn't even apply through CASPA. The college he's going to for PA school doesn't actually use CASPA, which I didn't know was a thing. So I kind of want to give Sean the floor, give you like a couple minutes to just kind of describe your situation,
Sure.
your struggles briefly, maybe
Absolutely.
your stats, right? Like your GPA, your
Yeah,
hours, that kind of stuff, and then where
absolutely.
you're going.
Cool. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. First of all, Boris. Yeah, you've helped me a lot over these last couple of years, so I really appreciate it. But like you said, my name is Sean Renessinger. I'm recently got accepted to Miami-Dade College University, which is physician assistant school right here in my backyard. Originally from Minnesota, I went to my undergrad there. I was a student athlete, so wasn't really focused on my grades at that time. It was like over 10 years ago, so had a bad GPA. Believe my undergrad was something around like 2.3, something like that. But like I said, I was focused
2.3?
on playing ball. What's that?
2.3?
Yeah.
Wow.
Wasn't bad. Wasn't good. Wasn't good. Really was
Okay.
focused on the wrong things, and you're young. You make mistakes, and unfortunately, I regret those mistakes. But I'll talk a little bit more on that. But I graduated from U of M with my bachelor's in marketing. Came down to Miami, started working, got into the hospital system, hospitals in South Florida here, and that's kind of got my first dose to healthcare. So that's where I found the role of physician assistant, working in urgent care. Fell in love with it, and from then on, I started to like look into how I could become a physician assistant. So the main school I was looking at was Miami-Dade College. I went and talked to the counselor there. They kind of broke it down what I needed, pretty much all of the sciences, because I stayed away from that during my undergrad. Ended up taking those classes. Started in 2017. I knew I had to get serious, get A's and B's, which is what I did. And finally, I finished all those prereqs, got all A's and B's. My Miami-Dade College GPA was a 3.73, all said and done, so pretty good compared to the 2.3 or
Yeah.
on the bottom it was my undergrad. So that was very very I was really proud of that. So I knew I had a chance. I am a I guess my family is from Sri Lanka, so I'm not the traditional student. I have from different backgrounds. I did a lot of volunteering. I did a lot of shadowing, pretty much everything under the sun to make myself a strong candidate. I did those things. Long story short, I applied through CASPA for a couple of different years, probably 3 years. And because my GPA, my cumulative GPA was a little bit lower, it brought it down to about an average of, I think, 2.6 2.65. So most of the schools have that minimum of 3.0 as a cumulative GPA. So I ran into a problem of, applying for so many schools, spending a lot of money, with transcripts and applications and supplemental applications just to get, unfortunately rejected. So I, was bummed out at that, but I kept on looking at other options. Hey, how about schools that are looking at the past 60 credits? Then they'll see my 3.7 and see that I've been changed student from I was 10 years ago in my undergrad. So I did that. There were some schools, I believe like Rutgers as well. James actually was one of your uh, prodigies. He told me about Rutgers and said that, hey, you can write a letter explaining your low GPA and they'll take that into consideration. I did that as well. Yeah, so pretty much, long story short, applied to Miami-Dade College, got in there. They do not do CASPA, and kind of brings me to where I am now, ready for that next step.
Yeah, just a couple of really quick questions um, about all of that. So you said that 2.3 GPA, student athlete, didn't take school very seriously. Then you got a 3.7, and like essentially what was a post back is what you did. You
Correct.
know, how many credits did you actually take after graduating undergrad? Like, because it didn't make a huge difference, 2.3 to 2.6, right? So how much did you
Mhm.
actually end up taking?
Off the top of my head, I mean, I would probably say 60 plus credits because I had to get
That
through
many?
all. Yeah, I had to get through anatomy one, anatomy two, labs, starting then the general chem, organic chem, biochem, genetic. I took all those classes
Wow.
to get to where I am now and to, check mark everything that Miami-Dade College required. And not only them required, but other schools as well. Let's say uh, that University of Washington wanted me to have, an upper level genetics class. I took that as well because I'm not just applying for MDC in my mind, I'm applying for all these other schools, just trying to make myself a more well-rounded applicant.
Yeah. So you ended up taking, you said 60 credits. Doing the math, that's about 4 semesters.
Yeah, give or take. I think it might have been a little bit more if I'd take, but I was taking, and I did it kind of slowly, to be honest. I did, a couple classes at a time. It wasn't full loads because I was really focused on getting those A's and B's, and I wanted to make sure I didn't make any mistakes and had to do it that way.
Yeah. So almost 2 full years of post-bac is what you did.
Correct. Yeah.
Somewhat part-time, maybe it took you longer than 2 years.
Yes, yes, yes. Because I'm
Wow.
working full time in the hospital as well, getting those direct patient hands-on experience hours. That was another way I could prove in my application that because I know they say if you have a little weaker GPA, have more direct patient care hours. So that was something I wanted to do. I actually started with phlebotomy, and I'm like, it doesn't really get more hands-on than this. And I know you touched upon that in a recent video of yours. So I started with phlebotomy, then worked my way up to medical assessment to primary care because most PA schools are breeding students for primary care. So I wanted to really be in it and have that experience.
Yeah. So it sounds like you made yourself a very well-rounded applicant. What still is like crazy to me is like 2 solid years of classes, basically full time, 4 semesters, getting a 3.7 only raised your cumulative from a 2.3 to a 2.6. That's wild to me.
Yep,
Uh,
yep. It was a drop in the bucket. Yeah. I mean,
Literally. It's
yeah,
just crazy how much those 4 years really make a difference. Um,
absolutely.
but there are so many schools that only really look at your last 60 credits, or they're supposed to.
Mhm.
So it sounds like you should be eligible for quite a few programs. You didn't have a whole lot of luck applying to those programs?
No, I mean, I applied to the ones that that were about 10, I would say, I believe, that I felt like I had a really good chance of getting into. Unfortunately, even how polished, I was and my application with everything I've done, I still didn't get in. I think out of the 10 schools I applied to recently, this cycle of CASPA, I only got to the second round of the application process in two of those schools. And it was kind of frustrating because I would follow up with those schools and say, hey, listen, how do I make myself a better candidate for next time around? Because I want to know what else can I do besides my GPA. That's my cumulative, which technically can't control that, can't go back in time and fix that. I've done everything I could to make that better, where I'm at, and this is kind of where I am. And a lot of those schools just told me that I guess they sort of say like, we have so many applicants at this time. We can't give you specific advice just to strengthen your application. So for me, I was like, that could mean anything. It could literally mean anything. So, but that's how it is. These schools are extremely busy, thousands of applicants. And I understand it's not easy to go through in depth with, each student, because I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people are asking that.
Yeah. At some point, it doesn't become impossible, but it becomes harder and harder and harder. So some people that have like a 3.0, 3.1, they do what you did,
Hmm.
it'll kind of improve them a little bit more exponentially. They'll get closer to like a 3.3, 3.4, to where they're kind of more in the middle of the pack rather than like bringing up the rear. Um, so is it possible if you're kind of in where Sean is right now? Yeah. Is it very, 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 the odds are stacked against you? 100%. So to someone who was in Sean's shoes before now, obviously, I would always recommend having a backup option. Those nursing programs, maybe go a different route or something and then do PA school later, or maybe you'd be eligible for other programs, perfusion, that kind of thing, which are
Right.
also super competitive, but PA is just so stupid competitive,
Yeah, it really is.
you
Yeah.
know. But finally, you got into Miami-Dade College PA program, which is a solid, well-established program.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been one of the most popular programs in South Florida for years now. A lot of different programs around here are trying to model theirs after Miami-Dade College. A
Oh
lot of
wow.
our professors have been to other schools as well, and tell the difference. It's like, hey, this is the real deal. So it's also one of the cheapest schools in the country. That also kind of drew my attention to it, and I figured, hey, that can't hurt. It's nice to not to come out that far in debt. So that was another reason it was very popular, not just amongst me, but everybody here in South Florida, even the islands in the Caribbean. A lot of people there, you don't want to, just go the PA route instead of going back to medical school, because sometimes you have to do that coming from the islands, Cuba and all those other small islands. So very competitive program. We take about 55 students. There's probably over 2,000 applicants from all over the country, and those islands as well. And I've applied. This is my third time applying, and last cycle got on the waiting list.
Okay.
Um, I was fifth on the waiting list. Believe it or not, not one person dropped from that, so that kind of hurt. But I made it to the interview, their essay portion, so they knew me, they knew I'm trying. And then the second time, this time around, I retook my PA CAT, which was one of their requirements, not the GRE, the PA CAT, and
Mhm.
I really studied for like 3.5, 4 months. I ate that book. I didn't do anything else, and I really crushed it, knocked it out of the park. So I came back to the interview, and when they said, "What have you done since last time you were here?" and I told them, "Listen, I redid my PA CAT. I went from, I believe it was like a 505 my first time, like, taking it a couple years ago, this time to like a 6 of 45. So I really knocked it out of the park, and they're like, wow. And then from there, I think they were like, we got to let this guy in. He's going to keep coming back until we do. Let's just let him in here. It's his time.
Can I? Man, there's so many points on that I really want to make.
Sure.
The first one, I'm just going to mention something for like 30 seconds, but what I really want to do is have you talk about the PA CAT, because
For
one,
sure.
that's a topic I have zero knowledge about whatsoever. I know it's new. I
Hmm.
know a lot of schools are not using it, but maybe more are now. I honestly don't even know what's on it because it came out after I already, was in PA school, so I have no idea what it is.
Right.
So I really want you to talk about that. But before I do, or before you do, I really want to go back to kind of the strategy that you took because it's contrary to what usually people say. Usually people say apply to a bunch of programs, 12 is the magic number. You want as many as possible, as
Hmm.
many as you can afford, as long as you're applying smartly to everyone, making sure you have the prerequisites, et cetera, et cetera. You kind of took the same strategy that I did. You kind of got really known by one program and you just kept like applying to that one and you got closer and closer over 3 cycles.
Hmm.
And the last cycle, they're finally like, look, like we've seen your evolution. You're really motivated. You're trying really hard. You're like getting better and better as a candidate. It's your time, right?
Hmm.
Uh,
Right.
which is really convenient because it happens to be in your backyard and they know you really well. So there's kind of like a two-tiered strategy. Like you could apply to a bunch of programs if
Hmm.
you're kind of an average applicant or better, or if you're really not, like Sean was and like I was, what you really want to do is just get to know admissions super well. Apply
100%.
once, ask them to help you, apply that first time, ask them to help you review your application. What can I do better? Then you come back to next year, you do those things. Okay, maybe you get a little closer, maybe you get in, maybe you don't. Then you do even more of what they tell you. And then they're like, this guy's not going to stop. He's not going to give up. He's super motivated. Let's get him in. That's what happened to you. That's what happened to me.
Right. Absolutely.
A few years ago.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just to touch on the second part first. So Miami-Dade College was my first choice. That was right when I found my PA, PA profession. I jumped on MDC because one of the PAs there, that in my urgent care in Miami Lakes, he went there as well. So he kind of took me under his wing, showed me the ropes. So that was kind of like my number one option. Originally being from Minnesota, I have family up there. So in my mind, I'm like, listen, I could probably stay with family, go to school there. So that was my second option. And then pretty much everywhere else was fair game. So I did, like you said, I called admissions. I spoke to the counselors there. I would call back, send them emails so they would know me, ask questions, got really friendly with them. And so those are the main two schools I did that from. And it helped me. And they knew me. They knew my application. They're trying to help me and wanted me to succeed. But unfortunately, I didn't get into that Minnesota school, and I got in down here. So it ended up it working out. But and the PA CAT. So PA CAT has been around for a little while now. MDC strictly does the PA CAT, and a couple of other schools are moving towards that as well. Very similar to the MCAT. It is pretty much very similar to the GRE, except there's no written essay portion of it. So science, math, anatomy, those are the biggest. I guess those weigh the most on there. So I studied. I got the book right from the PACAT website. I studied that, made flashcards, went on YouTube. I also did a lot of research for MCAT as well, and I was just kind of just going through all that material. And there's some apps online as well. Osmosis was one I used, the free trial, of course, because after that, it's like $100. So I wasn't able to go through that. But a lot of different resources I used to increase my PACAT score. And ultimately, I think that's what helped me get through there. They have a heavy emphasis on the PACAT. I think for them, they see if you can do well on this test, and it's not easy. It's a very tough test. They think that you're going to be able to not only get through the program, but you'll do well on the PANCE exam, and then you'll pass and be in the field ready to go. Because most of these schools, those numbers, those PANCE numbers count. They can't have low PANCE numbers. They have to be, most of these schools are in the 99 percentile. So that was a really important key for them.
Yeah, definitely. So the PACAT, honestly, I had no idea what it was. It kind of made sense when you said it's like the MCAT, the one that medical students have to study for years and years for, maybe not years, but they study for months. Like people legitimately take 6 months to study for it. They have all these books, and it's not like the GRE where it's basically like an SAT type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Math problems, word problems. Like if you're smart, you'll do well. If you practice, you'll really do well.
Mm-hmm.
This one is more content based, so you have to learn the anatomy, the chemistry.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of anatomy questions, real time, patient comes into the emergency room, they have, fever, the diarrhea. A woman in their mid teens comes in with these symptoms, what could it be? And then you have to break it down. So it was, I've done it the second time around. I felt a lot more comfortable and studying really hard. Like I said, for 4 months about, I felt more, just came a little bit easier to me. I think it was about 4-hour test, and I was able to do it remote. It went all right the second time around, for sure.
So what's considered a good score for the PACAT, and what's considered a bad score? Like where were you?
Sure. So I think the lower percentile would be around 485 to about 500, 510, 515. First time I scored around that 505, I believe. So I was lower tier, but I felt that, hey, with my GPA, being a Miami-Dade College student, all my extracurriculars, my background, the PACAT really doesn't matter. I'll knock out the interview, ace it, and I'll be in there. I was wrong. I did ace the interview. They go on a scale of 10 points for the interview, 10 points for an essay, and then PA CAT weighs like 20 points.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, that first time around, my PA CAT score was like 5 out of 20. Everything else was great, 10, 10, but it just didn't weigh well. So I had to retake that. When after I retook that, it went well. So um, sorry, could you repeat that question you were asking?
Oh, no, you're fine. So the PA CAT, so you
Yeah.
were talking about numbers. So
Yes.
like 400, high 400s, low
Yeah.
500s, kind of like bottom 25 percentile.
Correct. Bottom 25 percentile. And then a high score would be like high 500s or a 600. That would be a high score. So I got 645, I believe, that range. And then so once they saw that, they're like, oh, damn, that's very good. It's a huge jump, you know. I actually had one of the counselors reach out to me like, hey, how did you do so well? Give me
Right?
your study material. I would love to, pass it along to students coming along. And I was more than happy to do that because, I've been in that shoes. I want to help as many people, just like you, going
Yeah.
forward. And I've had a couple people reach out to me, ask me how you did well. What did you study? How did you prepare? And I kept a lot of my notes. And like right out of the PA CAT, I'm like, okay, I remember they said this question, this question, this question, genetics. I remember the X-ray. I remember this and that. So I jotted all that stuff down. So hopefully one day I can kind of help out, future students to come.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish more people would talk about the PA CAT because I don't. Elijah says just stopping by while I'm on my study break.
Oh,
Looking
nice.
at the comments.
Sure.
Not a whole lot of folks. A couple of people watching on YouTube, a couple of people on TikTok. But hey, this is being recorded. We'll post it. It's all really good stuff. Mostly just to encourage people who were kind of in your situation that it's certainly possible. It sounds like
Absolutely.
what you did was you just absolutely killed the PA CAT, which really helped.
Mhm.
You killed your post back, which really helped. 3.7, super high score on the PA CAT. That's fantastic.
Yeah. No, I mean, did everything I could because, I've given up a lot to be here, and, you know, a lot to be here. So I
Yeah,
kind of, have family and friends who are like, why don't you try something else? Like it's clearly not working out for you, And I'm like, no, this is it. This is my journey. I know, this is what I'm here to do. So I stuck with that, and I'm glad I did because everyone now is, real proud of me, and now I'm on to that the next phase, the next journey, becoming a PAS now, starting here in the summer.
that's amazing. Just real quick, looks like Elijah's commenting here. How Elijah, if you're still listening, if you're still in there, how is the audio on TikTok? Because obviously it's probably good on YouTube, I would imagine. If it's not, somebody please comment, let me know. Uh, but how is the audio on TikTok? Because I'm literally, as you can see, just holding my phone, just recording this until I get another tripod. He says sounds good.
Cool.
Okay, that's kind of surprising, but I'll take it. Maybe one
I'll
day
take that.
StreamYard can integrate TikTok so I can go live on YouTube and TikTok and Instagram at the same time, but we're not there yet. Uh, I think it's at 10,000 subs that you start to have more freedoms, but
Okay.
I don't know. We'll get there one
Yeah.
step at a time. Just like
One
Sean
step
said in
at
K school, we're going to get to 10,000 subs and be real full-fledged TikTokers.
a time.
We'll make it happen. But anyway, so the main thing is these stats. So initially, 2.3 GPA. Initially, obviously, 0 hours before you started getting hours. First time you took the PA CAT was kind of lower tier, like 400s, 500s. And then finally, you got a 3.7 GPA in your post bac, a 645 on your PA CAT. What kind of hours are we talking about?
Oh, I got a lot of hours. I'm probably pushing about two. I was pushing when got in. I was probably around 2,000 to 2,500 direct patient experience hours with as a medical assistant in primary care. Before that, I had the phlebotomy experience for I would probably say about 8 months or so. So I gained that experience as well to get to the medical assistant. Um, so that helped a lot, just being in that environment, and also the shadowing. I shadowed a lot of phlebotomists. I worked in the Miami Cancer Institute, which is one of the biggest cancer institute we have down here, and I shadowed in their phlebotomy department, and I learned pretty much everything I could from those great people there. And then from there, I took that to the next level of getting my license, and then working my way into the primary care as a lab tech, in the phlebotomy. So I was doing about 40 sticks a day, you know what I mean? And letting the
Wow.
doctors and medical assistants do their thing. And then they loved it because the medical assistants didn't have to do their own lab work, you know? So they were just sending to me, they keep on working. I'm sticking and moving. And that's kind of really how I learned how to work in like a really high fat, high paced atmosphere in that laboratory there. So then from there, I worked my way into getting my physician assistant certificate, and I'm sorry, my medical assistant certificate. Not yet. I'm jumping the gun,
You're
and
getting
then
there. You'll
yeah,
get there.
yeah. So and then from there, yeah, I started to get that experience. And primary care is great because I work with a fantastic doctor, a great team down here, and yeah, without that experience, I don't know where I would be. So it definitely helped out.
Yeah. So one, just the straight numbers. You said about 2,000-ish hours when you finally got in, and
Correct.
it's probably more now. But also just the way you're talking about the experience, I could tell during the interview, if you happen to be asked about it, you could say a lot of good things about it, the things that you did well, the things that you struggled with, who you got to shadow, that kind of thing. So I could just tell it's a really solid experience. You didn't just get the experience like for the numbers. You got it
Mhm.
because you actually wanted to get better. You used it to learn, that kind of a thing. You know,
Correct.
you're
Yeah.
part of the team. So that's what you really want. That's kind of, if I were to sum up like all of the PA school application advice into one sentence, it's don't try to get in, try to become a good applicant. There's a massive
Absolutely.
difference between those two things if you
Mhm.
really think about it. You're not just trying to put numbers on the board, you're trying to actually like become a better
Mhm.
applicant, somebody who's actually better medically, good at working in a team, good at, doing all kinds of stuff medically. So that's kind of what I wish you would do, which is exactly what you did.
Right, right. And
Well,
yeah, and then going back to like applying for schools that, that fit you, not just, like you're saying, applying for
yeah,
12, 15, 20 schools. I did that. I spent the money to do all that through CASPA, and unfortunately, it didn't work. But look
sure.
for schools that kind of fit you. Like for me, the last 60 credits, they're gonna look at that and see you're a different student than you are now, than you were
Yeah,
back in 2004 as a undergrad, student athlete. So if they take that big microscope and see the whole thing, but a lot of the times, they have so many applications and students, they just look at that first number. Okay, minimum 3.0, you have a 2.65, two, and working it up to like a 2.7, they're going to look at somebody else who has that 3.0, 3.2, 3.5, 3.7, so it's tough. CASPA, is very competitive. So, you have to know yourself and where you kind of fit in that process there.
and speaking of CASPA, so Miami-Dade College, where end up going this summer, it doesn't use CASPA, right?
Correct. They do not use CASPA. They're one of the few schools that don't use CASPA. They kind of do their own thing. You send in your transcripts to them, and they do their own, I guess, the research, and then you can apply right through there, through their school. So I actually was looking recently to see if there are any other schools that don't use CASPA, and I didn't really see too many anymore. So it just seemed like everyone's going towards that. It's just the huge database, and it works out. I understand it, but for someone in my shoes, I know there are people out there with low GPAs because of your undergrad or taking time off or whatever the case may be. Um, it's hard. So there are other options out there. Miami-Dade College is one of them, and I definitely think those students can look into it because it's something that'll possibly change your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't know what the difference really is because if they take all your transcripts and they average them, you're going to be in the same boat as you were in CASPA. But I don't know, something different about them. I don't know if it necessarily was the fact that they don't use CASPA or just the
Mhm.
fact that, they knew you really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that starting off back in 2017, when I went back to school to do my prereqs, I started fresh with them. So I was a brand new student with them. All of my transcripts kind of carried over, but for them, I started off A's and B's, A's and B's, and so that turned out to be the 3.7. I was a good student there. I did have my bachelor's, which they require. They didn't really look at what my GPA was, what my degree was, marketing or whatever. They say, okay, you have a bachelor's, you have that check mark there, prereqs check mark there, PA CAT check mark, shadowing hours, direct patient experience hours. So I guess they didn't go into too far depth into the cumulative and all that. Like Casper really makes the emphasis cumulative. Then you have your science GPA and your overall GPA. and I'm like, oh man, this I'm never gonna be able to get in because this cumulative is so low for me. So,
Sure.
you know, it was a bummer. But at least for I guess MDC, they looked at me as a whole, and they saw that, you know, I've been committed and
Mhm.
applying for this program for, you know, couple years now, and you know, and I got that opportunity. That's all I was asking for, really, just an opportunity.
Yeah. So I think the greater, how do I say this? I guess the greater message of this whole video is not necessarily that you should look for schools that like don't use CASPA as if that's some sort of a trick. It's kind of not, because you applied, the first time and you didn't get in. Then
Mhm.
again, you got waitlisted. Then the third time you got in. The same story can be achieved with virtually any school. The thing that really set you apart is you knew them. You applied 3 times. You improved every single time. Oh, Elijah says, what school did Sean get into? It was Miami-Dade College physician assistant program. So, one of the few schools in the country that don't use CASPA. But the main thing is, it's not even about not using CASPA. It's just about the fact that they got to know you as a person, and they saw you improve.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
if there's one hack for a low GPA applicant, that is it. You want to visit in person. If you can't visit in person, go on the phone, talk to these admission folks. Not all of them will talk to you, especially the first time you talk, your email or whatever. Not all of them will like even give you the time of day. But if you keep trying, 5, 10 schools or whatever, you keep trying, you have a good story, you're personable, eventually someone's going to give in. Someone's going to have a soft spot for you for whatever reason. Someone's going to give you a chance. Now it's
Absolutely.
not going to be like a free ride. It'll be like a chance.
Yeah.
So exactly what happened with Sean. I'll tell my same story. The exact thing happened to me. So I was moving to upstate New York. I was in the military. I was in Hawaii, but I was moving to upstate New York to be with who I was with at the time. And I thought that was a great idea, moving from Hawaii to New York, which whatever. Um, but anyway, so that happened, and there was 2 PA schools in the city that I had to move to. So essentially, that was my only 2 schools that I could apply to. And I emailed both of them, was like, "Hey, I'm moving here. I'd love to be a PA. Can I get in?" And of course, admissions gave me their standard answer: "Yeah, of course, you should absolutely apply." And a
Yeah.
couple months later, like, "Hey, by the way, no way, you're rejected."
Exactly. Yeah. Well, 100%.
Yeah, right. Like they wanted their $112 for the
Yep.
application fee, but that
Yep.
was about it.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
so whatever, so that happened. But then of course I go in there when I finally get to New York, and I go in there in person, like, "Hey, is the dean of admissions here? Like, I'd love to talk to him." "No, she's not here. Come back, whenever." So I kept coming, and I just kept coming, and I kept coming.
Nice.
I take like a week off to visit my, the girl I was with, and so like half of that time that I was in New York visiting her, I was on campus like trying to find these people. And
Yeah.
finally, one of them like sat down with me, and like her husband was in the Navy, so she had like a soft spot for me or
Beautiful.
whatever. And we just kept talking and we kept visiting. And eventually, she's like, "Look, like you're super persistent, as in like you're kind of annoying. Like, you're
Yep.
super persistent, and if you go like prove yourself, if you go do a post back or whatever, you get straight A's." And she looked me dead in the face, said straight A's. You might have a chance. And I was like,
Mm.
"After that, let's go."
Let's
Uh,
go.
and we did it. But what does this person say? Anish says, "I have 3 BS freshman year. Oh, 3 Bs freshman year. Am I okay?" Probably. I mean, I need to look at the rest of your transcripts, Anish, but 3 Bs by themselves are not tragic. 3 Cs by themselves are not tragic. I'd even say 3 Ds by themselves are not tragic. If the rest of your courses, particularly your prereqs, your science courses are fine, 3 Bs are fine. Breathe, you'll be okay.
Right.
But no more Bs, Anish. No more Bs. If you're one of my followers, you don't get Bs, you get A's from now on. Anybody watching, no more Bs. Bs are BS. You want A's.
Yep.
All
Yep.
right. Anyway, you need help
Absolutely.
on getting A's, you let me know. It's not, well, it's hard, but it's doable.
Doable. It's doable.
Doable. You don't have to be smart to get A's. You just have to be really, really persistent and just keep studying and be really annoying. So be that
Yep.
like nerdy kid in the back of the class or in the front of the class who's constantly pestering the professor about like, "Oh, this was only half a point, but can I have that back?" And then they look at you like you're crazy, and you're like, "No, but I need that half a point." And
Yep.
then you do that 100 times, suddenly you don't have an A- anymore. You got an A.
Yep. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's like a whole different mindset being an A student. You know,
Oh
people
yeah.
think that they're annoying or like, oh no, you shouldn't have to work that hard or I got the gist. Like, no, not anymore. You need every damn point.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Going back, I wish I knew what I knew now, because then I would care about my grades. I'd have wouldn't get C's and D's in my undergrad, so now you look back and you're like, you're such a different person, that you were then, and it's a learning lesson, so that's why hopefully I can tell, your followers and students alike, just do your best, because like I said, every point counts. And at the end of the day, you're stacked up against that like 1,000 applicants, and no matter, you might have this and that, but there's always applicants who are better than you, have better grades, or more hours than you. It's competitive, man. So just like you said, you got to get in somehow and just make yourself the strongest applicant you can, and look for a school that fits you, and don't stop. Keep going. Don't take no for an answer.
Absolutely. Elijah says, back to studying. Got my big comp in a week. It's do or die time now. I'm not sure what the big comp is. What's the big comp, Elijah? What does that mean? Oh, we'll see if he answers.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's a second or third year PA student at Rutgers. Elijah, the other guy in the
Of
picture on my
course.
photo.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he says the big exam to let us get into rotation. Jeez.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
You got it, man.
Oh, I feel like I remember that. I don't think it was that hard. I can't remember. I don't know. PA school is a very long time away. Uh, but yeah, it's nonstop exams, nonstop testing, nonstop trials. It just is what it is. Uh, but
Yeah.
when you're in practice, you remember a lot of that stuff, which is kind of
Yeah, which is cool. It's good to hear you say that, because you think of looking at 3 different tests a week, and different multiple subjects online and in person. It sounds daunting, but to hear you say like, "Hey, it comes in handy," you'll remember that
well.
when you're in there.
What's
Still.
crazy is it's literally the opposite of like when are we gonna have to know this? It's
Mm.
like it's the total opposite because who the heck is go crazy? I don't know. I'm getting notifications on TikTok. I'm not sure what to do with. Uh, but anyway, no, it's the opposite because like in undergrad, like you're learning all this junk and you're like, when am I possibly gonna have to know this? Like I
Yep.
never am,
Yeah.
like ever. And then in the PA school, it's the literal opposite because it's so much pressure because every single thing you have to know.
Mhm.
And then some of your professors will be like, no, like everything. You have to know everything, not just for the test, but for life. Because like if you don't know this, you're going to kill someone. And then as someone with imposter syndrome, you're sitting there like, right? It's
Like,
terrifying.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Freaking outside, like, what did he say? Oh boy, this is
scary.
brutal.
But the thing is, like, one, take the pressure off yourself. Like, you are learning enough. Don't worry. If you don't know every single thing, you can always Google it. I do so much
Mhm.
Googling, it's not even funny. Hopefully,
For
my
sure.
patients aren't watching, but I try to do a good job. So there's that. There's also the fact that like you're learning stuff you don't even know you're learning. Like it's not going to be until a year or 6 months or 2 years into practice that like that one PowerPoint slide just out of nowhere appears in your brain, and you're like, how do I know that? Because you did the work in PA school.
Yeah.
How do you know that?
It's funny you mentioned. I remember James watching you and James's video, when James was saying like, "Oh, how the PowerPoint, he would enlarge it and highlight it in red,
Yep.
and then later on he would remember it in a test. Like that's what it is." And I'm like, man, I hope I have that memory. I hope it works for me. I'm gonna do the same thing he did too. You know what I mean? So,
Yep.
yeah, it's all those little tools and tricks. I mean, help in the long run. Look, like you said, you remember that one slide, just
Mhm.
randomly.
Another thing that I've kind of learned is like the better a student you get, you kind of develop almost a photographic memory, even if you
Mhm.
never had one. So, like, if you like never learned how to study, like me, like I was always
Right.
really bad at school. I didn't care. Never really studied. Studying involved like looking through some things, getting bored, and stopping. Uh,
Yeah.
but then when I really started to care, I started with the only thing I could think of, just transcribing stuff, just writing it over and over again.
Mhm.
And my hands started cramping, and I couldn't do that anymore. And then you had to get a little bit more efficient. And then as you keep studying, you get a little bit more efficient.
Mhm.
And then you get to PA school, and you realize like I literally don't have time to study the way I'm used to studying. And you have figure out ways to get even more efficient. And then like
Right.
it's really hard and you struggle. But then eventually, like once you get experience with the course material and like some things start relating to other things, then it just becomes way easier. And
Mm.
eventually, you know enough about the topic to where you can listen to, a lecture on two speed, and you picked it all up like that without even having to study, just because
Wow.
you already know, right?
Yeah.
So that's not first semester. That's like, towards the end. But it does happen, guys. So if you're really, really struggling and studying just feels impossible, just know that you're going through it. Even
Hmm.
if you're still at the stage where you have to transcribe everything, it won't be that way forever. If you just push through, eventually you're going to get a little more efficient, and then a little more efficient. And then eventually you'll have like almost a photographic type memory because you have so much experience with it.
Hmm. That's great advice. Great
Yeah.
advice. I wasn't the best student either. It took a long time to get where I'm at now. So just like you, just repetition, trial and error, seeing what works for you.
Would you say you're more efficient now than you were when you started becoming a better student?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know what works for me. I know what doesn't. I know, time is very important. So I can't go out on the weekends like I used to do. I can't go
Yeah.
do this and that. So a lot of things just is time management for me. And now that I know, hey, I can go to the gym in the morning when I wake up on a Saturday, but then from there, I got to come back and I got to grind 8 hours and take little breaks here and there. And same thing on Sunday. And then Monday through Friday at work, coming back, it's tough, but it's doable once you get in that rhythm. And it's funny that you say that because like you're in a rhythm, you're doing great, and then you go to PA school, you might have to throw it all out the window and just try to learn how to study differently because it's so fast. It's 10 years of school crammed into 2.5 years. So you have to really adjust and try to find a new way to kind of retain that information and memorize things. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's doable. It's possible.
Yeah, it's somehow it's impossible and it's also possible at the same time. Like it seems impossible and it literally feels impossible when you're doing it, and you never get to 100% even close. But then some way somehow you just know enough to pass the
Hmm.
stupid test, and then
Right.
somehow you know enough to pass the pants, and
Yep.
then but that's good enough. Nobody knows everything. That's why everyone has a team, and that's why you have Google.
Right.
But you know enough. That's kind of how it ends up being. Just a really quick, recap. This is Sean. He just got into PA school at Miami-Dade College, which is one of the only schools in the country that does not use CASPA, which he thinks maybe that was a bit of an advantage in getting him in with a lower GPA. Uh, but yeah, if you have questions for him, you have questions for me, just watch this when I post it, and it's awesome. Or just comment, reach out. We're happy to answer your questions.
Yeah, and you can, I have Instagram as well. My name, Sean, ESEA underscore P86. If you want to reach out to me through there, I'm more than happy to help out. I've reached out to other people in the past. James is one of them. He was nice enough to give me advice for Rutgers, and he even like read one of my personal statements and gave me his opinion. So I'm trying to pay it forward and do the same thing. So if you ever need anything like that, and you guys out there, I'm more than happy to help. Um, yeah, Instagram, email. I'm sure we could link it at the bottom there.
Yeah.
And yeah, more than happy to help you guys out. I mean, I was there where you guys are, trying to get in like a couple years ago. So I know the struggle, and I know what you're going through, but you'll get there.
Absolutely. So what's the Instagram? It's Sean.
Sharon underscore
Uh-huh.
P as in Peter 86.
Is it like, oh wait, I didn't write it down. Sean underscore P86.
Correct. Yep, that's the
Uh,
Instagram.
it's getting blurry. But yeah, Sean underscore P86 is the Instagram. Yeah, if you guys want to, get his perspective, get him to help you out, go ahead and shoot him a message. He just
Sure.
offered the world. So
Yeah, and my
do that.
Gmail is just my first and last name, Sean Randesinger at gmail.com. Whichever is easiest for you. I'm usually, accessible on both.
Absolutely. Yeah, Sean, thanks very much for sharing your perspective. Can't wait to hear how school's going for you. Maybe we'll have you back on. Maybe my setup
Definitely.
will be less crazy, but that's what we're
Yeah,
doing.
definitely, definitely. No, of course. I'd love to help out, and anything else you guys need, let me know. I'm here for you.
Yeah, guys, just so you know, like it's freaking possible.
Absolutely.
So fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic. Let
absolutely.
me, let me end the live stream here and we'll chat real quick.